You are live.
Welcome to the Blitz. Free plays for week 5 in college football coming right up. 2 absolutely massive games set to take place on Saturday. Number 6, Oregon at number 3, Penn State, and number 17, Alabama at number 5, Georgia. We will, of course, be talking about both here today. And if you are watching us live here on the Wage Talk YouTube channel, start firing off those questions right now, because any other game you want us to talk about, we will be happy to do so. All you have to do is comment down below. Here to help me break down all these matchups, as always, Ralph Michaels and Ross Benjamin, 2 of the very best at wagertalk.com. Ralph, I'm going to go to you first here for number 6, Oregon at number 3, Penn State. Nittany Lions head coach James Franklin. We all know that big game James comes up small in these situations. 1-18 straight up against AP top 5 opponents. So my question to you, somewhat sarcastically, is how happy is James Franklin, Ralph, that Oregon's ranked number 6 in the country coming into this game?
Yeah, well, semantics.
Yes.
To me, Oregon is clearly a top 5 team, and that's what's important on the field here. You look James Franklin as a favorite. He's a bully. He's 64% in lifetime as a favorite of 7.5 or more. But when he's between the 4s in a closely matched game, he's only 6-10 straight up and 5-11 against the spread. But I do want to mention this. Home teams between the 9s, when both teams are AP top 10, this goes all the way back to 2015, home teams are actually 71% against the spread. So that is AP top 10 teams, line between the 9s, and a total over 46. That is, every team, every top ranked team moving on since that time. But I look at this and I say, Dan Lanning's stats for Oregon have been dynamic. To me, they are the number 1 best statistical profile team. On offense, their offense is averaging 199 yards more versus their opponents than their opponents that have allowed to their other foes. Their defense is holding opponents to 155 yards less than they've averaged against other foes. Those are number 8 and number 10 in the country. Oh, yeah, and then the rich get richer. They're getting back 3 players this week, which they haven't had the last few weeks, including running back Noah Whittington. Remember, Whittington was the guy last year in the Big 10 championship game that ran for 80-some yards on 14 or 15 carries. So he's a big get back for them. I am not going to be on this game. I will be very excited to watch this game. I'm not real wild about the Oregon. Oregon did a big press release on their uniforms to match the whiteout at Penn State. But to me, it is just that. Until James Franklin proves to me he can coach a team that can win a big game, I cannot be on him. I like Oregon.
Okay. We had an interesting comment there, Ross, from Jacob Hefner in the chat. Penn State wins by 3. Hooks the Penn State backers, and Oregon moneyline public loses as well. I don't know. That really threading the needle there, Jacob, is just his thought. What do you think about this game? So much focus is going to be on Franklin, rightly so, about his lousy record in these big games. Yeah. But do we trust Dante Moore, the Oregon quarterback, going on the road? Because he's yet to prove it, at any of his previous stops.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of these teams has played anybody. I mean, I guess you could say, at least Oregon played a Power 4 conference team, and who'd they play? Oklahoma State. They played 2, actually, Oklahoma State and Northwestern, but 2 bottom of the barrel Power 4 teams. And, I like Penn State here. Somewhere I'm hearing whispered in my ear, Teddy Covers is telling me, Ross, don't take Penn State in a big game against a ranked team, especially in the top 10. And he's been right up until this point. But if we know about it, everybody else knows about it, right? And I see the money coming in on Oregon in this matchup. I like Penn State's quarterback a hell of a lot more than I like Dante Moore. So I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to that. And also this Penn State defense has been awfully good in their first 3 games. And Penn State, by the way, 3-0 in a +6 turnover differential. So both of these teams are eerily similar. I mean, you look at Oregon, they're +4 in the turnover department. they've also played outstanding defense in their first four, but the common theme is neither team has played anybody worth a hoot. But Penn State at home, everybody's going to say, we'll be hearing this James Franklin thing, Brian, for the next couple days. And I'm sure we'll hear it on Saturday morning with all the talking heads. I'm going with Penn State. The hell with everybody. Penn State -3.
All right. Little conflict here to start the program. Maybe I'm going to have to break the tie, I guess, here, because we have one Oregon, one Penn State. I don't think this game's going to make my card in full candor, but I'll tell you this, guys. I'm kind of, look, this is it's interesting because we would before the season, it wasn't significantly different, but Penn State was favored by more. This is kind of a good number relative to the look ahead. And look, Aller, I agree. Ross alluded to it that I like Aller, even though he has shown up very big in big games, the quarterback for Penn State, but I do like him more than Dante Moore. I would give a slight lean to Penn State here in the whiteout.
That a boy, Brian.
I don't think it's going to make my card. Yes, go ahead, Ross.
That a boy, Brian. That's all I was saying.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Brian,
when I say the hell with everybody else, I don't mean you, bro. I love you, you know.
I do
want
in Vegas on our side.
You know, last week we talked about LSU night games at Death Valley. I give a 6-point home edge. Penn State whiteouts, again, I give a 5.5-point home edge to Penn State on whiteouts. So for those Penn State fans, it truly is special when they have a whiteout game.
Yeah, we shall see. Can Franklin finally win one of these games and get the proverbial monkey off his back? Adam, one of our top commenters each and every week here on the program. Let's stick in the Big Ten here, Ross. What do you say? Illinois against USC. Now, last week on the show, correct me if I'm wrong, sir. I may have misremembered here. You and I talked about, when we were talking about the three of us were talking about Illinois and Indiana. And I think the consensus among the three of us is like, not a great spot for Illinois, but this line is kind of getting a little heavy on Indiana. All the money was coming in Indiana. Well, it turns out if that line would have been steamed up to -52, you still would have been okay with Indiana on Saturday, because boy, did they beat the doors off Illinois.
Yeah.
And now Illinois is a big home dog against USC. I can't play USC at this price. I thought for sure this would be a smash spot on USC. Not anymore. Not at -7 on the road. They don't win on the road often.
Yeah, if you predicted that Indiana was going to blow out Illinois by that margin, raise your hand. And now put it down because you're a damn liar. And the bottom line is that, look, I think this is a classic overreaction. This Illinois program right now under Brett Bielema has been a proud program. I think that USC has feasted on some weaker competition. I think USC is very good, but not to the point where they're laying this kind of number on the road. I look for Illinois to have a big bounce back here. At the very least, Brian, I see them keeping this very competitive and it being a one-score game. So I'm not going to have a pick on this game, but my lean would be on take the home underdog in this spot.
Ralph Michaels certainly knows the trends better than anyone. Ralph, a trend that maybe you have available or something similar. USC, I believe, going back to where they joined the Big Ten, is 0 for their last 6 against the spread when favored by more than 5 against a conference opponent on the road. This is also a noon Eastern time kickoff. With this conference expansion, we've seen that, right? These West Coast teams do better in the late night kickoffs, and then the East Coast teams do better in the early kickoffs. What do you think here, Ralph? USC, obviously, there's not much value on the Trojans after what happened to Illinois last week.
Well, you look at last year. USC went to Michigan, lost 27-24. They went to Minnesota, lost 24-17. And then they played other 2 road games at Washington and UCLA. I did read in a newsletter, Brian, I don't have this stat, but it had USC as 1-13 ATS in the Eastern and Central time zones. Yes. You emphasized with the noon start. That is an issue for me. If this were a night game, I'd have no problems playing USC anywhere. But having a 9 a.m. clock for these kind of USC kids that, you know, USC is still a prima donna school. You still have stars, and that was always the problem. They didn't have enough discipline. This is the kind of situation that would scare me under the old regimes. We'll see how Lincoln Riley does handle it. But I cannot get to the Illinois side. Illinois, we think they're a defensive team that wants to run the ball, but they allowed 438 yards to Duke. They allowed 579 yards last week to Indiana. When you allow 1,000 yards to two teams like that, and now you have one of the top 5 offenses in the country traveling to visit you, I don't think Illinois can keep up with USC scoring. So now, can USC stop Illinois? Well, remember last week, they were on the road, only 161 yards. The week before, only 358 yards. So I am not excited at all about that. I do lean with USC team total, but the early start time does have me not leaning with USC for the game. I'm not going to get to the window with the USC team total because, again, if they get off to a slow start, it's something I will look to live bet. It does come out ready to play for a noon kickoff, goes down the field, gets some momentum, and is playing well early on their first drive. I'll look to live bet that team total.
I like that look a lot, Ralph, live betting the team total. This is a USC offense, guys. Granted, of course, this time of year, you always have to consider the level of competition they face. USC is number 1 in yards per play on offense, averaging 9.3. So that's a hefty number against an Illinois defense that obviously was shredded by Indiana last week. We've got some questions rolling in. Keep them coming, guys, in the chat. Again, doesn't have to be just the big games. Any game you want to know about, if you just want us to hope we agree with you on your bet, send those questions our way. And we got one. Oh, my boy Jay Buff is in the house here. He really likes South Alabama and App State. Any opinions on either game? I like App State against Boise State. I'll tell you that much. Ralph, you're raising the pen.
Wait till my best bet today.
Okay, there you go. Oh, that's right. Best bets coming up at the end of the show. We were a half point away from a 3-0 sweep, and I was the guilty party. I'll be talking about that later on. Ross, I know. You know what, though? Ross got a little lucky, so I guess we can't come with that Oklahoma safety on his. So
I had it all the way, Brian.
Yeah,
I had it all
As
the
long
way,
as he
man.
kicked Kelly's ass, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Kelly, man. It's nothing. She's just been on the other side of some of the stuff that I've liked in recent weeks, but
Yes,
that doesn't mean she doesn't know what she's doing. That's for sure.
Absolutely does. What do you think? Ross, any thoughts on those two games as we go to the group of 5?
I'd rather watch the
Alabama.
grass grow than handicap these two games. Honestly,
Okay.
App State, nothing like they were in years past. Boise, I guess they were ranked early on because of their reputation, but that quickly got dissipated after their performance against South Florida in the opener. So, in the Sun Belt, to me, I find that for me historically, and I don't know, I'd be interested to hear you and Ralph's thoughts here, Brian. You get a conference once in a while, you just are not on top of. It just seems that you just can't press the right buttons, and the Sun Belt's that for me. So I usually stay away from Sun Belt games.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had some success in the old Fun Belt before, Ross, myself. Of course, South Alabama, for those who don't know, again, Ralph, pardon me, is going to have his free play in that game as they visit North Texas, a North Texas team that I think might be a decent bet to get that G5 spot in the college football playoff. We'll see what Ralph has to say later on.
You know what, Brian? I take that back. They're in Conference USA. So, yeah, between Conference USA and the Sun Belt, it's difficult for me. So I don't want people to chime in and correct me.
And then with the G5, we talked about the G5. Boise State, as you alluded to, Ross. Boise was initially the favorite to get that G5 spot. Obviously, they had the tough game against South Florida. But, Jeff, to answer your question, I like App State. I would take the points with App State against Boise in that one. All right, questions continue to roll in. Star Child is in here. Waiting to hear someone talk about Ohio State and Washington, because I might be on Washington in the over, he says. I have seen a lot of love, Ross, for Washington in the market early in the week. Yeah. I think the line might be getting a little short, though.
I don't think so. It would be short, certainly, if the game was being played in Columbus, but it's not. And I think that takes on a whole new meaning. I don't think Ohio State is, again, this is what for me to bash a team that's been so dominant and put together a great effort in their opener against Texas, who, by the way, I think has been overvalued from the start. I think this is a good spot for Washington. I don't know if they pull the outright upset, but I certainly think this could be a one-score game and one that goes right down to the wire. And I would not be shocked here if we saw an outright upset. So my early lean here would be on the Washington Huskies at home. Now, remember, this line opened at, I believe it opened at 9.5, and it's down to 8 right now, Brian. And you're looking at that's sharp money because people aren't lining up to bet against Ohio State, general public anyway. So I like Washington here with the points at home.
Okay, that's what Star Child wanted to hear, Ross. So you made him happy, at least. Ralph, I think I read earlier in the week that this was just the second time in the last 20 years, first since 2012, that a top-ranked team in the country was favored by less than 10 against an unranked opponent. What do you say? You know Ohio State quite well. Are the Buckeyes being disrespected with this line, or is there something up? Julian's saying this is a tough start going across country. Washington, we talked about USC's struggles on the road. Well, conversely, a lot of the old Pac-12 teams have been quite good when welcoming in the Eastern and Central time zone teams at home.
Well, it's simple for me. I like the Ohio State side because of the defense. But there's no way I'm going to take a freshman quarterback playing in this type of venue for his first road game of the season with a crazed crowd. It's going to be loud there. It's going to be exciting. You know, with Saban on the road, you know they're going to hand the ball off. I mean, they had Donaldson, then they had Peoples, then we've seen Bo Jackson really come up the last few weeks, and he keeps popping up that depth chart. And yes, you have the wide receivers in Smith and Tate. I think Smith and Tate are going to be complete decoys early, stretch the field, run the ball, let Julian saying get comfortable in the middle, short passes. First half under for me. You're getting 24. That's a very fair number for me. Yes, Desmond Williams has been dynamic. 760 yards, 73% completions. The team is averaging almost 6 yards per carry rushing. But again, let's talk. Colorado State, UC Davis, and Washington State. At least the young quarterback for Ohio State got to face the Texas defense, so that prepares him much better for this than it does for Desmond Williams facing the Ohio State defense. First half under for me.
First half under. There we go. I like, wow, that's the second time in a row here. You've got a little exotic here with that lean to the USC team total and then a first half under. So I like that. Guys, Washington, a trendy underdog that's got some sharp money early in the week. Let's stick with that theme here because there's another game, a noon Eastern kickoff that a lot of our commenters want us to know about. That is Notre Dame and Arkansas. Boy, does this Notre Dame defense stink. And there's going to be a lot of points on the board. I mean, the total is what as of now? It is up to 64.5. Arkansas can score. Ross, I see you making faces. Is there I assume there's something you would like to enlighten us on as the Fighting Irish travel to Fayetteville.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Brian, and your assumption is correct. I think this is a great spot for Arkansas. I mean, they're coming off 2 heartbreaking losses. Notre Dame was supposed to be very experienced and very good defensively, and they've been anything but. They got torched by Texas A&M. Again, this is their first true road game of the season. First true road game of the season, I believe, right? So Arkansas,
Miami.
They played at Miami. That's right, and he took them down to the wire. My fault. Anyway. Having said all that, I just think Arkansas they got caught looking ahead last week. Memphis was a dangerous team. They had just come off a heartbreaking loss against Ole Miss. Then they go to a group of 5 conference team in Memphis, and they know that next they got Notre Dame coming to Arkansas, okay, in the game they've had circled before the season started. I just think Arkansas is the play here. I think they're going to do enough offensively to put Notre Dame behind the 8 ball. And, CJ Carr, Ralph, I'm just not sold on him. I think Notre Dame made a big mistake when they let Steve Angeli transfer to Syracuse because he wasn't going to get the job. And I think that if you get Notre Dame behind the 8 ball where they're in obvious pass situations and have to play from behind, and I think that will be the case in this game at some point, they're not as good in that situation as when they can control the clock, run the ball, and control the tempo of the game. Arkansas, to me, is the play here. They opened at, 6, and they're down to 4.5? Yeah. Give me the Razorbacks at home.
Woo, Big Suey. I agree with you there, Ross, on the Hogs. What do you say, Ralph? Make it 3 for 3. Sean, who asked the initial question, says, it seems too easy to take Notre Dame at -4.5.
Well, it's not that easy if you two both like the Arkansas side.
That's good. Yeah.
Let's remember this. 2 things on both sides. Arkansas fumbled going in for the winning score against Ole Miss, fumbled going in for the winning score for Memphis. They would be 4-0, and this line would be closer to pick. You know what I mean? It's really that close. And you look at Notre Dame, again, the first game against Miami, they go down to the wire, then they lose by 1 point to Texas A&M. Both teams could be undefeated. But what scares the bejeebies out of me is they allowed Texas A&M to throw for 360 yards. They allowed Purdue to throw for 303 yards. And remember, at halftime last week against Purdue, Notre Dame was trailing on the yardage 286 to 231. We had that long weather delay, and all of a sudden, Purdue just went flat, and Notre Dame did continue to run the ball. A lot easier to run the ball after a weather break than it is to throw the ball, and we saw the difference there as Notre Dame ended up with 43 carries for 254 yards. The problem is this. Tyler Green is not that throwing quarterback. Yes, his numbers are fine, 64% with a 12-4 ratio. But again, a lot of those were pat statters against Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State. I look at this and I say, I don't trust Arkansas at home. I don't trust Notre Dame on the road. And if I have to give an opinion, I'm going to lean over in this game. One of my weakest opinions because I've gone back and forth, but those are my thoughts on the game without a strong opinion on either side or total.
Well, I got a strong comment there in the chat that somebody really likes the over. Thinks this one could hit the 80s, and I concur. Again, high total. Very similar to last week with Arkansas and Memphis. That was a game, again, where the home dog was getting a lot of interest in a game with a high total as well. Keep those questions coming, guys. We will be getting to LSU Ole Miss, one of several interesting games in the SEC this week, but not the headliner. We'll be talking about that just a little bit, but let's take a brief moment here to talk about what we've got going on this weekend here at wagertalk.com. Obviously, all 3 of us, it will be a busy weekend, a lot going on, not just college football, but the NFL, Major League, final weekend of the regular season of Major League Baseball as well. Ross, why don't you talk about what you've got cooking over at your page? Of course, guys, that Weekend Warrior Pass available again this week. You can get any of our.
It's an absolute steal for all 3 of us, but I can only speak for myself when it comes to records. Coming off a 4-0 sweep 2 weeks ago and a 3-1 last week. So 7-1 in college football the last 2 weeks. 13-6 to start the year, up over 26 units. That's nothing new with me. I've been number 1 at wagertalk.com when it comes to units earned since the start of the 2023 college football season. Number 1 last year in both win percentage and units earned. Okay, now that I put a star on my forehead, I have a Friday night play up right now in the Virginia and Florida State game. I also have a 3-pack up on Saturday right now in college football. I'll have 2 more plays at least posted in college football, including a 5% best bet. And I'm 4-0 with my college football best bets to start the year. Last week, we had Miami of Florida as they covered easily against Florida. A little bit hairy for a little bit in the 3rd quarter, but they pulled away late to get us another win with our 5% best bets. And $49, folks. My 5% best bets the first 4 weeks and this week will be a $35 value. So if you think about it, you're going to get everything that I put out on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in college football and the NFL. And don't forget, 2 games on Monday. And folks, those of you who participated and took advantage of this offer with me the last 2 weeks, you're a combined 15-5 in the NFL and college football. So $49, Ralph, even you could afford that.
Oh, come on now. Ralph, please clap back at this man. Why don't you I was going to say what I had going, but the man called you out, so I'm going to give you the floor here, Ralph. Talk about
I Venmoed Ross, so you can help me with that, okay? And you can you can share some of that with me. So,
all right, brother.
When you're as rich as you are, Ross, and no one else can afford anything you can afford.
Yeah.
I
wish I was.
I
wish I was rich instead of him.
Today. This weekend, it is a Saturday play, 8-1 on college football, 5% plays. Number 2 in college football since the start of last year, behind the boss. Number 2 NFL and college football combined since the start of 2024. And again, I will say this. It's actually a better value if you want my plays to buy the 3-day all access, because I have 2 Friday night college football plays. There's only 4 games, but I have 2 of them. So if you are going to get mine, maybe think about the 3-day all access, which gives you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that way you're getting both my college football plays for Friday, including a 4% best bet. But either way, Weekend Warrior, 3-day all access, number 2 college football, first 5% college football side, 8-1 run, college football top plays.
All right. These guys are locked and loaded, and so am I. It was a disappointing last weekend. We never run from that. 4-4 overall we finished last weekend. I'm going to say it should have been 6-2, guys. If you caught last week's show, I gave out Miami of Ohio for free here on the program. That looked really good for 59 minutes. And then they blew it at the end. And sadly, that was not my worst loss of the weekend because, yes, Dan Alexander, I was on the LA Rams on Sunday. So that was the Miami of Ohio and the LA Rams was the difference between 4-4 versus 6-2. Nevertheless, you go back to November of 2023. I am number 3 in college football during that time, up 52.6 units overall. So we've got the long track record of success. We will be bouncing back here this weekend in both college and the NFL with a strong weekend. So WT.buzz/BP, make sure you're there. And yes, that Weekend Warrior Pass is something I would highly recommend. You both have brought up Friday games, which is interesting. We're going to go back here. Adam, who I just saw chimed in with a question on Arizona versus Iowa State. That will be my best bet on the show. And if you've been watching this program for a couple of weeks, you probably know where I'm going at that, but you'll have to stay to the end of the show for that. But he asked about a Friday night game because yes, there's a 3-game Friday slate here as I scroll through the comments. Houston minus 13.5 seems like a bunch, but I couldn't ever take Oregon State is what he had to say. Yeah, it's not looking good in Corvallis. I'll say this. Houston is a team I bet over 6.5 wins at the start of the year. I feel pretty good about that bet right now, Ross. I thought it was going to take a good start, but I don't know. Did you have any comments on this game? It does seem like a lot of points to lay on the road.
Yeah, there's better value on the board, just because, again, folks, I've told my clients this for years, and I'll say it again. Just because there's 3 games on the board on Friday doesn't mean you have to bet all 3. Really doesn't mean you have to bet even one, even though I do have a play on Friday. Same thing goes for Monday Night Football. Same thing for Thursday Night Football. You just don't have to make a play just because it's a limited card. In any event, Houston better on paper, Brian. I agree. I like your over 6.5 bet. They look to be much improved from a season ago. And Oregon State, they're one of those teams. They're in limbo. What conference are they in? What do they have to look forward to? The Pac-12, yes, but how good is the Pac-12 when you look at the teams they're adding? So, again, better value on the board for me.
Yeah, just humiliated in the Civil War as well. So, what you're right. What does this team have to look for? It looks like a coaching change might need to be made in their future as well with the Beavers. All right, let's go back to our rundown, guys. Some of the big games that we've got on the docket. LSU Ole Miss. This is a game, Ralph, that has been a rivalry that has been dominated by the home team. I believe 7 straight covers by the home team, if I remember that correctly. The old Lane train, a short home favorite here. We laughed last week about how the computers, they seem to really love this Ole Miss team. I'll be honest, I kind of like Ole Miss here too. LSU's wins have not aged that well, have they? This is a team that they beat Clemson. Everyone said, what a win that was. Well, have you seen Clemson recently? Then they beat Florida. Well, they beat Florida because DJ Lagway who's the Florida quarterback, obviously, kept throwing the ball to them. 5 interceptions. Florida could have won that game. And we see how Florida looks now. So what do you think here, Ralph? It's a tricky handicap, a game that a lot of people want to know about. LSU, Ole Miss, home team has had the edge in years past. What about Saturday in Oxford?
Well, for us old school guys, we know the old adage, you don't lose your starting job to an injury. Well, we'll see. That may not be true for Ole Miss. You know, we saw the quarterback got hurt after a couple games, and boy, you know, have they stepped up. So between Chambliss and Simmons, I'm not sure who's going to get the start. I think they stay with the hot hand. You know, may not be politically correct, but it doesn't matter if you're a head coach. He's getting paid millions of dollars to make that decision. So he'll make the decision that is best for this team. But I agree with you. I think Ole Miss's offense has looked better than LSU's has. You look at LSU against Florida. Now, again, this is a misleading stat because 316 yards means that you just didn't get many opportunities to make long drives because Lagway kept giving you the ball in short fields, but they still only put up 20 points. I bet I didn't look in the database. I bet if you had 5 interceptions, I bet you find very few teams that only score 20 points with getting 5 interceptions. I'm going to guess most of them are in the 30s or 40s. So to me, that's a negative performance. You look against Clemson, 354 yards. Yes, it was on the road. That's a negative performance. You host Louisiana Tech, 365 yards, 3.8 yards per carry. That's a negative performance. The only negative I see on Mississippi was the 526 yards they gave up to Arkansas, and that was with 220 yards rushing and 305 through the pass. So that was just a game that was ugly. But they're home for a 3rd straight game. LSU traveling for the first time since the Clemson game. I'm with you, Brian. I lean Ole Miss. And you think Ross can give us a sweep?
Well, we shall see. By the way, Ross, I don't know if this is going to factor into your handicap. Probably not. But I don't know if you saw early. Lane Kiffin's daughter is dating the linebacker of LSU.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd feel about that if I was the old Lane train. Can the Lane train make his daughter feel bad?
Yeah, I could use a couple adages when it comes to that, but we probably kicked off the air and I wouldn't be allowed to do any more shows. So I'm going to leave it alone. You know, I hope you can appreciate that, Brian. But in any event, I think, look, I'm going to have to disagree with you guys. Number one, here's the real reason why I'm going to disagree with you. Because I picked LSU before the season started at plus 1,400 to win the national championship. I also picked them at plus 700 to win the SEC. Now, Rolf makes some good points, and you do too, Brian. But the bottom line is, if Ole Miss is going to be able to win this game, they're going to have to do it in a one-dimensional phase because you can't run the ball against this LSU defense. They've allowed 89 yards or less in all 4 games, less than 3 yards per carry. And I know the competition leaves a lot. Well, Clemson in Florida, okay, they haven't lived up to snuff, but I'm sure you guys would agree they're not terrible teams, you know. And Ole Miss, look, they beat Tulane last week in impressive style. I actually said on the show last week I thought that was a good spot for Tulane, but boy, they proved me wrong. They barely get by Arkansas 41-35 at home. A game they could have lost. I think, Ralph, you mentioned that Arkansas fumbled the ball going in for the go-ahead score. And then they win at Kentucky 30-23. I'm going to talk about Kentucky later, but I don't think they're a very good team. So I'm going to go with LSU here. I'm sorry, guys. One of us has to be right.
Well, hey, often they always joke on whether it's this show, any show, when everyone's in agreement. Well, that's when sometimes it might, some people say, "Oh, this is a situation where everyone should be agreeing." Ralph, you brought up a great point though about the LSU Florida game, LSU getting those 5 interceptions and only scoring 20 points. Remember, one of those was a pick 6 too. So that he speaks even more poorly about their offense. Let's see if the Lane train can win a big one. Guys, I know everybody wants to know about Alabama and Georgia. I promise we're going to get to that game closer to the end of the show. But we have some questions coming back in. A game we talked about at the outset was Penn State and Oregon. And one of my good buddies, Joey Cheese, has jumped in the chat. And I always love how Cheese gets aggressive here. He wants to go alt-line it on Penn State. He loves the Nittany Lions in this spot, minus 13.5 plus 280, even hitting us with the eyeball emoji there. You guys can go back to the start of the show to see our breakdown here. I don't know if you guys want to add that. I mean, we talked about the Penn State. Ross, you said you and I were kind of the two that like Penn State here. What do you think about alt-lining it here? Can small game James be that good, or is that?
Yeah. I sent a check to him. He must have got it already, the viewer. Yeah, so that's why he loves Penn State so much. But in any event, I mean, I have nothing more to add than I think the home field advantage is going to come into play here. And Ralph brings up a good point about the whiteouts. And everybody in the country who's a bettor, who knows anything about college football, knows the lack of success that James Franklin has had against top 5, top 10 teams. So you're not enlightened us with those points. I think that he puts that behind him in this game, and his team comes up big in a revenge spot besides. So, Ralph, to you, buddy.
Nothing new for me on the alt line. Just if you like something on the alt line, that's fine. But make sure you're going to win. If they win and cover, make sure you're still winning money. I have no problems with you splitting it or taking a portion of the alt line. But if you really like Penn State that much, don't give away a winner to try to get cute for a huge winner.
Yeah, it's called greed.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right, guys, let's keep the questions coming in the chat. Again, Georgia, Alabama still coming. We will be definitely getting to that. But there's some other games you want to know on. Sean here threw a couple at us. Going to the Big 12 here. Cincy, Kansas, or Kelly Stewart's K-State against UCF. Ross, I believe you had I'll tell you what, I think the Big 12 is interesting. I have Texas Tech head and shoulders above the rest of this league right now. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that, but after the big win they had in Salt Lake City, they look like the team to beat in this conference. Ralph, either of those games, or Ross, I'll throw it to you first, actually. Ross, either of those games pique your interest?
Okay. Repeat the games again. I'm sorry, Brian.
Cincy, Kansas, or K-State, UCF?
Yeah, I would have loved Kansas in this spot when I saw the opener, and then I think I'm missing something because it went from 6 to 4.5. And when that happens, I do further evaluation, and then I say, I'm just going to leave it alone. And that's the case there. And the other game involving, I'm sorry, Ralph, or Brian, once again.
Kansas State, UCF?
Yeah. I talked about this on Wager Talk yesterday, that I thought this was a fishy line. I mean, it opened at 6 with Kansas State being a favorite. You got a 1-3 team against a 4-0 team, and a 1-3 team who, by the way, is 0-3 against FBS opponents, is the favorite by a touchdown. And then Kelly brought up a good point that, unfortunately, UCF lost one of their assistant coaches earlier this week in tragic fashion. So it's an emotional thing going on there with UCF. But if that didn't occur, I would really like Kansas State in this spot, because if you guys know anything about me, when it looks too good to be true, which UCF getting the points does as an undefeated team against a team that's 0-3 against FBS competition. Not only that, their one win, Kansas State, was against North Dakota, and they needed a last-minute touchdown to get it done. So this is a game that originally I like Kansas State, but I stayed away because Kelly talked me into it. Honestly, she made a great point. You can never discount emotion when it comes to handicapping college football.
No, that's why we have these conversations. We hope they're as enlightening for you guys as they are for us, the handicappers. Ralph, any takes on these two Big 12 matchups here? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about there?
My power ratings have the game of pick between Kansas State and UCF. So
Okay.
there's only one way I could go. I'm not getting to the window. And Ross, it really depends on the coaching staff and the upper leadership of the players to know if that emotion is going to hurt them or help them. They may come out and motivate this game and play this game for the coach. So, you just really don't know that till you see them on the field. So there are times that they can be despondent, or there are times when they can rally around that and turn it into a vibe and say, hey, we're an underdog and we're undefeated. This is embarrassing. So who knows what's going to happen? I am not getting the window with it. But again, with a 6-point difference in my power ratings, that's the second or third biggest I have this week. And sometimes you have injuries. And like if a quarterback gets injured in one game, I don't change my power ratings for that one game because it's going to revert back the next game. But there's no major injuries for UCF or K-State that has affected any of the key players. So it's getting to the point now where we're 4 games into the season or 3 games into the season that I start putting much more faith in my power ratings, where those first 2 weeks with the transfer portals, I just write down the numbers and don't even pay attention to them. Now they start becoming part of my handicapping repertoire.
All right. We've got a question from Jay Buff. I need an under on my card. What game are you attending? I will not be at any stadium live, Jay Buff, this weekend. If you want an under, though, I think an under that I would look at sticking in the Big 12 is Utah and West Virginia. Obviously, with the concern at quarterback for Utah, I think that could be an under game, but the market has hit that quite a bit as well. All right, one more game, and then we're going to finish out with the more SEC talk. Duke, talk about it, injury. You mentioned Steve Angeli earlier. Ross, injured for Syracuse.
Yeah, that hurts. Yeah. With no pun intended.
Yeah,
he was really a difference maker.
Yeah, This is a hard game to handicap, obviously, with that injury. Duke and Syracuse.
Yeah, Ricky Collins, highly touted, former LSU recruit, went to LSU, played very limited there, wasn't crazy about when he came into game last week, sort of killed all the offensive momentum Syracuse had established in that win at Clemson. But, the coaching staff's high on him. The offensive quarterback's coach who coached in the NFL says he's got as good as arm as a lot of guys in the NFL right now. So again, we know live arms are, that's talent, but how they perform on the field with that live arm is another story. It's a game I'm going to steer away from. I think Duke is better than what they've shown so far in terms of record-wise. And Syracuse can move the ball. I would love Syracuse in this spot. They would probably be somewhere around a 1 to 2 point favorite with Angeli at home, I think. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph, but without Angeli, I'm going to stay away from the game. And I don't trust Duke laying points on the road against a team that's riding a little bit of momentum right now, having won 3 in a row.
Yeah, and remember, guys, Duke was on my card last Saturday. That was a winner, but they were outgained by NC State. They were down in a hole early. Ralph Kelly has chimed in with her about Kansas State. Says they are not tough enough to win and cover. Spoken like a fan of a team that has been downgraded in the power ratings more than just about any team in the country here. But Ralph, you want to talk Duke Syracuse?
You look at Duke, plus 4 turnovers again last week. Anytime you have that, you're going to get outgained and you're going to win the game. It seems like a stupid play to bet the under, but again, you have a new quarterback who, by the way, was 6 of 13 for 46% last week when he came in. Ross said he really struggled, a 4.9 YPA. But, Duke's defense allowed 426 to Tulane and 535 to NC State. But I wouldn't want to go over with Menza being on the road and with Collins making his first start. So if I had to give an opinion, I'm going to flip it out again. First half under for me. I think Syracuse really tries to establish the run early. They ran the ball 38 times against Clemson for 155 yards. And against Connecticut, that was a game they trailed. So they only ran 29 times and ran 53. But if you look at their first half numbers, they've gotten behind and they've had to throw to play catch up. Early in the game, first quarter, first halves, they do try to establish the run. So either first quarter or first half under would be my lean.
Okay, another good lean there. I like it. Indiana, Iowa. We have a question. This is just like USC, Illinois, right? Where the values on the home dog. You would think here, Indiana absolutely tattoos Illinois. Now they're laying a big number. Kirk Ferentz, he's tough to beat at home. It's always ugly with Iowa. Kelly has responded with Iowa, exclamation point. I think it would be home dog or pass for me in that one. If either of you guys have anything to share about that game real quick, either of you, on Iowa hosting Indiana, otherwise we'll move to the SEC.
With Iowa last Friday night, they were a four-star release, and everyone was bashing Gronkowski. You know what I mean? Those first two games he had. But, in my write-up last week, I said, this guy started 55 games at South Dakota State. He is an experienced quarterback. He just got off to a horrible start. Well, they still only had 346 yards, but they did control the ball better and drive the ball better with 22 first downs. I'm with you, Brian. To me, coming off that franchise type win on national TV at home, winning 63-10, and now going on the road for your first road game, let's all wave to the kids in the hospital because Iowa will be celebrating.
There we go. Ross, pardon me. Ross.
Yes, sir.
On that game?
Yeah, I agree with Ralph. Okay. I just think it's going to be an overreaction from the general public this week after what Indiana did against Illinois. It's similar to what we discussed with Illinois and USC, like you said, Brian. And I just think that Iowa is a much better offensive team that they've been in years past. I mean, before we were used to 14-10, 13-10. I mean, they beat Rutgers last week 38-28 on the road. And they put up some decent offensive numbers with all things considered with their offensive struggles in past years. So I think this is a good play. I think the home underdog here is the value in this spot.
Okay, let's go to the SEC. Not Alabama, Georgia just yet, guys. We're going to do Texas A&M, Auburn. Normally, Auburn, this is a team that's competed. They were unlucky not to cover last week against A&M. It's a penalties go against them. Obviously, the last safety cost them, but A&M's off a bye. I believe in this A&M team, Ralph. So I'm actually tap dancing away from the underdog in this one, Auburn, as they go down to College Station. Before the season, people caught the preseason version of the Power 5. I said A&M over 8.5 wins plus 150. It's another win total I'm feeling pretty good about right now, especially after that win over Notre Dame.
Yeah, I do a Friday morning show down in Alabama, and up until last week, I have picked Auburn wrong 7 straight weeks. Uh-oh. Now, I did pick Oklahoma last week, but did I really deserve to win that game to snap that streak? It should have been 8 straight Auburn games that I've had. Ross mentioned it about teams that I just don't read right. Auburn is it for me. I'm going to pass, and I'm not even kidding. I, right now, am just not even looking at Auburn games, and the hosts to my radio show laugh at me every Friday morning when I give up my Auburn pick. They're on their phones. They can't wait to bet it up. As soon as I say one team, they bet the other side.
What do you? Well, all right. He didn't give you anything to go against there, Ross. What do you think? A&M and Auburn.
That's a great story, Ralph. Anyway, I just look. Here's a perfect example of you people who cry fixes when you lose a game like last week and the manner in which Auburn lost. Now, not lost, but not covered. It's a 6-point game or 5-point game with less than a minute to go, and you give up a safety and you win the game by 0.5 point. Remember the ones you win like that, folks.
Yes.
Because I tell people all the time, they always cry at me, Ross, I'm always on the wrong side of these fluke finishes or the fixes that goes on. There's no fixes, folks. Nope. It's the bottom line is this. You forget the ones you win like that. I don't. And I'm not going to apologize for winning a game like that, Brian, because we lose games like that along the way as well. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer those games all even out over the long haul. More, you'll get most people to say, no, that's not correct, Ross. Trust me, you just don't remember the ones you win like that. And with all that being said, I'm going to pass on this game.
Okay. Let's get to Alabama and Georgia. And by the way, the only thing I'll say about that, Ross, is if you block a field goal at the end of the game, guys, don't return it.
Wait, stop it. Move on, brother.
All right, there we go. All right. Kelly in Vegas with some nice comments there. Yes, about the Iowa tradition, waving to the kids at the hospital. We are now guys, our best bets on the show, our free plays are coming up, but we have to break down a big one before that. And it is number 17, Alabama against number 5, Georgia. Kirby Smart and Georgia, longest home win streak in the country. And they are only laying 3. But they are against a team, Ralph, that they have not had success about it. Alabama has, I believe, won 9 of the last 10 meetings, a majority of them coming as underdogs. So, this is a very similar handicap to me as Oregon and Penn State. I know Alabama has the loss to Florida State, but that's a loss that may age well moving forward. Georgia, meanwhile, kind of like Penn State, they've been playing with their food. They haven't covered. Have they just been holding everything back? This is a tough handicap because they don't lose between the hedges, Georgia. But Alabama, to me, might be the better team.
Brian, Alabama is the better team. I have them power rated even. I'll take Ty Simpson over Gunnar Stockton. I'll take the Bama defense over the Georgia defense. The rush attacks, pretty even, but let's remember that Bama gets back Jam Miller and gets back Keenan on the defensive line. He's probably their best defensive player. So they're getting 2 stars back in this week. It's Bama for me.
All right, Ross, what about you? Alabama and Georgia. Obviously, everyone in the chat wanted to know our opinions on this one.
Yep.
Ralph says Bama. What do you say?
Georgia's a sucker pick, in my opinion.
Wow.
What did they win 48 in a row at home, Brian?
It's 30
and they're only
something.
a 3-point favorite. Listen to the odds maker, folks. They know a hell of a lot more than the polls do. Georgia also very lucky to come away with a win against Tennessee. Tennessee missed a chip shot field goal at the end of regulation time. They win the game by 3 in overtime. I think I agree with Ralph. This kid Simpson seems like he's getting better every week. And also, I mean, you look at the game against Florida State, he really didn't perform that badly. And the last 2 games, he's really come on. And I'm not crazy about Gunnar Stockton either. So I think Georgia is an overrated team at this point. And I think they're going to be exposed within the SEC this year. So that's my opinion.
Guy, those are 2 strong takes from my colleagues, Ralph and Ross, there on the Alabama side. Just to be exact here, get the numbers right, it is 33 consecutive home wins for Georgia, but Alabama has beaten Georgia 9 of the last 10, the last 3 as an underdog. Look out, guys. I'm going to make it 3 for 3. I like the Crimson Tide, too. Give me the points in this one. So there's your complete run on all the big games we have covered. If there is some game that has somehow slipped through the cracks, in your opinion, guess what? You have a couple minutes left to answer. But we are now going to get into our free plays for the show. We're each going to give you one best bet here on the program. Last week, as I said at the outset, we went 2-1 doing this for the first time, and we were very close to 3-0. Ralph, I'm going to let you go first because yours was the best of the lot. You had Troy against Buffalo. It didn't look good early, but then they stormed back and win the game outright with a backup quarterback. So a great call there by you. What do you have this week?
Well, I love the Sun Belt even more now that Ross hates it. So, hey, let's go back. Let's go back to the Sun Belt. And Ross, let me ask you, does this line make sense to you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, especially your win last week. They overcame a 17-point fourth quarter deficit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, North Texas is 4-0. South Alabama is 1-3. So the line being 12 or 12.5, does that make sense to you?
Are we talking North Texas or are we talking South Alabama?
North Texas versus South Alabama this week.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to me. And when that happens, again, I go with the adage, Ralph, that if it looks too good to be true, more times than not it is.
Well, this is my biggest power rating difference. I have this power rated. I think North Texas should only be a 3-point favorite. Yes, they beat Lamar 51-0. Yes, they beat Western Michigan, but they only won by 3 on the road against a pitiful Western Michigan team. They beat Washington State by 59. Why? They were plus 5 turnovers. And then they beat Army. They got outgained, and it went to overtime. They haven't had a good win yet. You look at South Alabama. They beat Morgan State, no big deal. Lose to Tulane by 3, not a bad loss. They were minus 1 turnover. Lose to Auburn by 16, only outgained by 27 yards, and they were minus 2 turnovers. And last week, it was pitiful. They were 126 yards to the positive, but they were minus 3 turnovers. North Texas, the only reason they are 4-0 is their plus 8 turnovers. South Alabama, the only reason they're 1-3 is that they're minus 6 turnovers the last 3 games. Now you could say, well, that's because Davenport throws a lot of picks and Mestamaker has a 10-0 ratio. But I think now that they're going back on the road, they're getting things a little bit settled. South Alabama covers this game. South Alabama might pull the outright upset. So I am going to, they are likely going to make my card. I will bet South Alabama plus the points. And to steal a little line from VR, I will be sprinkling something on the money line with the Jaguars this week.
All right, there he goes. Show best bet from Ralph Michaels is South Alabama plus the points against North Texas. Ross, you were also correct with your show best bet last week, as you joked at the outset of the program. You had it the whole way with Oklahoma against Auburn, getting the late safety to cash the winning ticket. What game are you looking at today, man?
Yeah, I'm looking at the South Carolina-Kentucky game that will be played in Columbia, South Carolina. Right now, South Carolina, I believe, is a 6-point favorite, correct, Brian?
Yes.
I didn't look at the update, but in any event, South Carolina, you're looking at a team that has really vastly underachieved this year. You're looking at a team that has really struggled offensively this year. They haven't yet to reach the 300-yard total yard barrier on offense this season. Boy, oh boy, if they don't wake up in this spot, South Carolina fans, they're never going to wake up because Kentucky could be had defensively. Usually a very good defensive team, Kentucky, and lacks a lot of offense. But this year, I mean, you look at Kentucky, their last 2 games, they allowed 455 yards to Ole Miss. Not a big deal there because Ole Miss is going to move the ball on anybody. However, 461 yards last week to Eastern Michigan. So South Carolina 2-2, coming off back-to-back losses against Vandy and Missouri. They killed themselves with turnovers against Vandy, even though I said on the show that I thought Vandy was a much better team. But Missouri also undefeated. So you lose to 2 undefeated teams, 2 ranked teams. And I just think that I like what I saw from last week. They fought hard in a 29-20 loss at Missouri. They were right there until the end. They covered as a 10-point dog. I just think we're finally going to see South Carolina get over the 300-yard barrier, and I think Kentucky has a hard time moving the ball here on the road. I think Kentucky is not a good team. I know that they played Ole Miss tough at home, but again, South Carolina, Ole Miss, you're going to be, as much as Ole Miss can move the ball on anybody, Brian, you can move the ball on Ole Miss if you're even a decent offense. So I am going to go with South Carolina here, much to Kelly's chagrin. Actually, minus 5.5 over Kentucky.
Yeah, I was going to say we're starting to see some 5.5s pop. Shop around as always, guys. Get that best available line. Again, we were very close to going 3-0 with the best bets on the show last week. I blew it because, well, I didn't blow it because I wasn't playing for Miami, Ohio. But despite losing their starting quarterback, their starting center, their top cornerback, they were still winning by 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. And guess what? They didn't cover because they fumbled the ball in the red zone when they could have just simply kicked the game-winning field goal. Of course, UNLV, very fortunate UNLV team, recovers that fumble, drives down, and they kick the game-winning field goal, win by 3. And my plus 2.5 ticket on Miami went up in flames. But we're going to do better this week, guys. And for my free play, I'm taking a look at Arizona at Iowa State. 2 weeks ago on this very program, I gave you 3 teams that I said were overrated and would not finish the season ranked in the top 25. One of those teams was the aforementioned South Carolina. Gamecocks have lost back-to-back games and tumbled out of the rankings, like Ross said. Doesn't mean that South Carolina can't bounce back this week. It just means that South Carolina wasn't as good as their rating 2 weeks ago. I think the last 2 results have bear that out. The second overrated team I gave you was Illinois. We talked about what happened to them last week. Lost 63-10 to Indiana. Illini dropped to number 23 and are 6.5-point home dogs this week to USC. That brings me to the third team I mentioned 2 weeks ago that was overrated. Number 14, Iowa State. Now, I understand the Cyclones are 4-0, guys, but let's look at those 4 wins now, shall we? Kansas State, they've turned out to be a dumpster fire. Iowa State only won by 3 over in Ireland and was actually outgained in that game. South Dakota was Iowa State's second win. That's an FCS team that's lucky not to be 1-3. Iowa, that was another coin flip game for Iowa State. They went on a last-second field goal. And then Arkansas State 2 weeks ago. Cyclones could have lost that game outright as 3 touchdown favorites, if not for some favorable officiating. And remember, Arkansas State just got beat by Kennesaw State last week. So sorry, Matt Campbell. I think your team is a fraud. I'm going to take Arizona, who's a perfect 3-0 against the spread, plus the 6.5 here. Note, Arizona also faced Kansas State this year, just like Iowa State did. Unlike Iowa State, Arizona was not lucky to win that game. As a matter of fact, they outgained Kansas State 412 to 193. A lot more lopsided than the final score of 23-17. I'll tell you, Arizona's defense, guys, much improved. Number 4 in the nation in yards per play allowed. This is a program 4-0 against the number, off a bye the last 3 seasons. Yes, Iowa State's off a bye and at home. Not enough to win by margin here. Give me Arizona plus the points. And yes, sprinkle a little bit on the money line. There you have it. The Blitz squad ride on your screen. Ross Benjamin going South Carolina minus 5.5 versus Kentucky. Ralph Michaels will be taking the 13 with South Alabama against North Texas. And I, Bryan Power, am taking the 6.5 with Arizona against Iowa State. You want to roll them all together, get a final price of plus 590. So there you have it. Show best bets in the books. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the program. Remember, this is very important here. Very important. If you like this content, please smash that like button. We appreciate that. And do not forget to click subscribe down below. That always is very important as well. One more time, guys, Weekend Warrior Pass available for all 3 of us at wagertalk.com for just $49. You can get any of the 3 of us. You get all of our plays for $49. And as an added bonus, we do include any Monday Night Football plays as well. So that's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from your favorite Wage Talk handicap for just $49. And Ross, you mentioned it. You've got the 5% play going this weekend. So that makes us an even sweeter value because the 5% play by its lonesome is $35. And you can get the rest of the plays for just $14 more.
Yeah, and I will have a 5% best bet on Saturday as well, like Brian alluded to. It's not up yet, but it will be shortly. And 3 games already up for Saturday in college football, 1 for Friday in college football. Obviously, that's not part of the Weekend Warrior package, but folks, look, Brian already did the math for you and what a steal this is. Last week, 4-0 in the NFL. 3-1 in college football. So if you took advantage of the package, you went 7-1. Over the last 2 weeks with the Weekend Warrior package, 15-5, $49. You're betting on college football in the NFL, $49, folks. I went 15-5. My college football record speaks for itself. I'm coming off a 4-0 sweep in the NFL last week. Why not buy?
Ralph, I'll give you the final word.
Well, Ross, can I borrow some money so I can buy my package to get me some extra money? Same thing, guys. I trailed Ross all last year in college football. I'm trailing him now since the start of 2023. I'm trailing him on the promos. So all I do is lift up Ross's cape and carry it behind him as he continues to be the boss leader. Number 2 college football in NFL since the start of 2023. College football 5%, 8-1, 89%. Weekend Warrior, $44. Can't go wrong.
That will do it for another edition of the Blitz. Join us again next Thursday live, 1 p.m. Eastern, as we'll be breaking down all of the Week 6 college football matchups. But until then, thank you for tuning in, and let's cash some tickets.